Hey, what is up, interwebs? It is your boy GQAzndood of Game Theory here at the Gaming Academy on Tuesday night. Almost said 6th, but June 10th, 2025. It is sometime, and it is hot up in here in Bellingham, Washington, in the Academy room. Academy stock room is what I call it because we're roughing it up right now. But anyway, welcome back to another episode, students of the game. You're tuned into the Gaming Academy. If it's your first time here, it's session 35. And tonight we got a special lecture lined up. Of course, I'm your headmaster, James, aka GQAzndood of Gamer Quotient, joined by my always ready co-instructor, BlazingAceNelson, who I'll introduce here shortly. Making his triumphant return also to the Academy is OCB, aka Oliver Campbell. So good to have you because our own Tragically Elite is out of commission. He is a newly dad, and he's going to be doing that for a bit, and he's going to keep us on the line here when he makes his debut. So, but now I hope you took those notes over the weekend because class is diving deep into the massive Summer Game Fest of 2025. Yep, there was a lot to show that weekend, from cinematic showstoppers like RE Requiem and Death Stranding 2 to crossover chaos like the games like Sonic Racing and Crossworlds. It's like the Smash Bros of Mario Kart. There's been a lot. So tonight we're going to be breaking some of that down tonight. No quick bites or rumor mill, just straight up SGF spotlight and hot takes. And we're also going to take a look into more of the Switch 2 because one of us here at the Academy managed to snag one, and we want to share that experience with you guys. So if you're looking to buy it, our own Oliver Campbell here will be able to kind of help us out with that. But of course, we got our regular segments this week, like This Week in Gaming History, a brand new Yo, check this out, and a spicy rhetorical question that definitely will get the chat debating. So buckle up, grab your notebooks, and let's power up this class session because it's officially starting now. All right. So let's introduce the faculty here. Of course, it's been quite some time. But they both been sick, and then now Nick's becoming a dad. But speaking of but the guy that needs no introduction, the guy that I've fought in the streets and fought also, not with no with, because we met at pretty much at the Tilt Arcade. So here's yours truly, Blazing Ace Nelson. What's up?
I believe what you were looking for is fought against and fought alongside.
Alongside and against. There you go. Yeah.
But it's good to be back, everybody. Man, that summertime flu hit me like, well, it hit me like Marissa.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Is that a level 2?
No, just level 1, but she held
Level
she held it back, so I just got like ragdolled. It
level
was
1
bad.
super, yeah. Believe it or not, I have not played any Street Fighter 6 since it's come out, since after the demo. So, but I saw that they released the whole season 1 and 2 together, and I'm in. I'm taking a break from Tekken and jumping in. So
Yep.
I'm excited for that. Yeah, aside from getting sick, anything new over the week?
Uh, well, I've actually been doing a lot of just jumping back into some of the older games that I've played, or at the very least, stuff that I haven't been playing. Stuff that I haven't been playing in a while. So, we're definitely going to be talking about that once we get to what we've been playing.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Yeah, we got a lot to uncover here. And I noticed I have not turned off my bot for St. Jude, so that's gonna be funny. Ignore that. So that campaign is already done. But on your own time, feel free to donate to St. Jude's because they're great when it comes to video gamers and streamers and charity. So but yes, making his triumphant return back and with a Switch 2 in hand, because I don't have one. And I don't know if you do, Ace. Do you have a Switch 2? No? Did you hear me?
No, what was that?
I was like, do you have a Switch 2?
No, I don't. I'm holding off on it. You know how it is. You wanna wait until all the bugs worked out first.
Oh yeah, and all the drama because there's been a lot. It's been a lot. So anyway, good to introduce him as always, Mr. Oliver Campbell. What up?
There we
Howdy,
go.
folks. Here I
Welcome back,
am.
man.
I'm the man with the Switch. I got all the dirt.
You got the goods, right?
I got all the dirt. It was an odyssey, though. It was weird getting it. but we'll get
Oh,
that.
you gotta once we get to that, you gotta share the story because that's part of
it was odd.
part of that. There's been a lot of misinformation being thrown out. Like people have been throwing clips of like old angry GameStop like explosions, and you saying that was the Switch 2 release. So I would like to see what it actually went down on the sales floor. Because if you think about it, this is probably the first time since COVID where people are lined up in front of stores looking to get something. Because it's been a while since that's happened. So looking forward to hearing about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, how you been?
Oh, I've been doing. I'm really excited for Nick.
Yeah.
I'm juiced up for him, man. So when I became dad, it was like one of the best things that ever happened to me. I take that back. It is the best thing that ever happened
There
to
you
me.
go. Yeah,
That
that's the
guy's
right answer.
That guy's a riot. Like, I love that guy. So if he has even 50% of my experience over the past 5 years, now he's going to be in for a good time. And I'm very, very glad to be subbing in for him because look, brother got his hands full.
Yep.
He's got his hands full. Like, oh Lord.
Yeah, he's basically on Gaming Academy maternity leave, so
For really real.
He's gonna be busy. And I told him just message me whenever you want to decide to come back. It's not no pressure. So
Yep.
no big deal. Because we got people that want to jump on. So awesome. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to share before we just get right into this?
Well, it's gonna be a wild ride. We've just with Summer Games Fest alone, there is so much to cover. I mean, there is so much to cover that we made it a point not to add the tech to the syllabus this week.
Yeah,
there is no maybe we'll get to it. It's just no.
there was a lot of information. Matter of fact, there were like 4, maybe 3 or 4 showcases over the weekend.
Yeah,
and we're only going to cover one because it's so much.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. All right, guys, ready to do this?
Let's go.
All right. With that said, let's move on to our first segment of the show. It's loads here.
Check this out.
That's how you know it's been a while. But yes,
Been a
this
hot minute.
segment of the show is called Yo, Check This Out. And I'm going to be continuously wiping sweat off my brow because it's hot in Stockton. And that's all right. Because the Academy can't afford air conditioning yet. And so this part of the show is where we kind of feature a bunch of things that, we as nerds want to share with you in the gaming world, where it could be something random, could be something you already know about, or something just fun, like turning video game screenshots into cinematic gaming movies. Yes, I said that. So I don't know if you guys have been messing around with AI like I have. I've been since I work for a tech company, I've been working with AI like crazy. I've been kind of trying to figure out how to turn video game screenshots, such as, let me see if I can pull this up here. Contra. Let's just start with Contra, right? You guys, everybody see that? Okay.
Yep.
Screenshot such like this. It's an innocent screenshot of Bill and Lance, right? In the first stage of Contra. Now I said, how do we if this was a movie or just a cinematic masterpiece, what kind of conceptual art would this turn into, right? And so get ready, folks, because AI is a wild place. Here it comes. Now we know the introduction of the box art to Contra, right?
Also, where did Oliver go?
Yeah, he just
I don't know.
yeah, hold on, let me remove this. Are you back? There you
There
are.
we go.
What the heck? Okay.
Okay.
So
I got sent to the jungles of Cuba, I guess.
the Shadow Realm. So here, apparently, according to ChatGPT, calling you out, opening. Bill and Lance wear the same color pants, and they're a part of a romance novel. So it's kind of an interesting concept to that screenshot.
Wow.
Because it's nothing like it. Matter of fact, let me pull it up here to see if. Here, let's swap this up so people know, right, what it looks like. That is not exactly it. They're shooting at each other instead of together. They got the mountains right, which is cool, right? Then I was like, man, at least make one of them wear blue pants, just like the screenshots.
Least.
Yeah, at least. So I was like, let's try this again. Give player 2 blue pants and see what happens. Uh, this is just like going crazy. And that's what it gave me. It gave him shirts. It's kind of weird, right? So
This is definitely a case of in painting needed.
right. So I said, well, this is a fail. This is a thumbs down for me. Not cool. And also, let's just say the guy on the floor looks way too happy, and I don't understand. So,
He is kind of happy.
yeah, it makes no
Like,
sense.
whoa.
It makes no sense. So
I'm
now
uncomfortable.
I was in a Konami mood when I was, brainstorming this. So I grabbed another screenshot from another game, right? So let's go ahead and remove this guy here. Let's see if I can. It keeps adding, which is weird. All right, there we go. So, does anybody remember this screenshot?
Oh hell yeah, Life Force,
Okay. All right, my man, right here, Life Force. I love me some Life
cream
Force.
of the crop.
Yeah, and I was like, what would this look like if they tried to turn it into a movie, right?
Uh-oh.
And I was like,
Here
I
we
was so
go.
concerned. I was like, this little flower thing here, I don't know what they're gonna do. Are they gonna make it look like we're in a human artery or something, right? So here it is. Here it is. Look at that. I don't know. Let me let it load here. Not bad.
That looks really good. Actually.
Not bad. Not bad, right? And I was like, that's not bad. Which is weird because I feel like you could have done easily with Contra. But Life Force, like you did pretty good. And it's even got like the enemies in the background over there coming up, right?
Yeah.
We got the Resident Evil like 4 angle behind the shoulder kind of angle, which is interesting. But not bad, not bad. Chat, let me know which one's your favorite. For this, we're sticking with Konami today, right? And I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Then I try to think what other games from Konami can I screenshot. Now, immediately I went to Castlevania, but I feel like people have done Castlevania so much that I don't want to show that to you guys. Let's go. Let's throw something weird in here. Like I'll just throw it on the screen. Let me know which game it is. Anybody know this game on the screen?
Shit, I know those sprites, but
it's a Konami game. Remember, we're sticking with Konami.
Nope, I'm drawing a blank. It may have actually been one I never played.
Yes, Jago's got
Jackal.
it. Jackal. Okay. So you guys remember the box art to this, right? Like the guys on the Jeep and with like the machine gun in the background, super epic, super 80s. So I said, now take this screenshot and turn it into how y'all don't know this.
Simple,
that got away.
I played because I spent most of my time playing Double Dragon 2.
That's right. It's some people, it's not their tea, right? It's all I gotta say. It's not their flavor. So here it is.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, this is pretty good. Once it loads. There you go. They even have the blue tank in there.
Huh.
Which is interesting, right? So
it's hilarious because it's either the AI is like getting it on point,
yeah,
or disastrously out in left field. There's no in between.
My guess is it didn't know what to do with humans as sprites, at least in the type of sprites they used for that game. But in this case, it recognized Jeeps and tanks enough to be like, that's a Jeep and tank, right? Because you'd have to figure out, is that a Jeep or is that a car? Like, you don't know, right? So that's kind of like my takeaway from this is I don't know what to expect. So matter of fact, chat, I challenge you to send me some recommendations on some retro game screenshots that you'd like to be turned into a cinematic scene like this, because it would be so much fun, I think, to see what our favorite screenshots look like. With these,
one of the ones we got to do is the classic, either at the castle background or on the pier, Ryu and Ken in Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because you guys were here last time. Ace, you weren't here last time, but I actually did Double Dragon last time with the chat.
Nice.
And let's see if I have a real quick image of it. Oh yeah, I do. So I took this screenshot right here, and this keeps like it's weird. It doesn't. Before it used to replace, but not it doesn't do it anymore.
Man, that's a classic,
right? So Bobo and Billy Lee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, turn this into an 80s action movie.
Oh boy.
Let's go. Let's go. What does it look like? and here it is. And for some reason, they gave a Bobo a shirt,
I love it.
and I was like, "What?"
Ye-
You know. But if you look at like the background, like the treadmill, and then the wall, even the five over there, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the
I
right
give
elements
you
are
that.
in play.
Yeah.
I
I'm
give you
sold.
that. I
Yeah,
said
so
there was no in between. This is the in between.
it's like we got to give a Bobo a shirt though for some reason. That was my only like, oh come on, man, why'd you give him a shirt, right? All right. So before we move on, I'll do one more here from since you weren't here last week. I did this magnificent one here from Double Dragon as well. Last week was Double Dragon. Classic shot from the Nintendo version, right?
Mm-hmm.
A classic shot in the mouth. That's what he's giving him.
Yep. That guy is he's having a day. This guy right here on the right.
He's always getting stuck. He's been getting stuck since 1987.
So here it is, interpreted by.
Still
kinda-
about to get stuck. Ain't that a bitch?
Right. So that's interesting. You know, they that's how apparently they interpreted the sprites as like either a teenager or like a full on adult. I don't know. Like it's hard for them to decide that, but it's kind of like I don't know. I don't know how they're referencing
College
it, what the
students.
algorithm is. So
They're
it's funny.
community college students.
Yeah.
My
And
favorite thing is that it definitely got the background 100%.
yeah.
I'm like, that's beautiful. No one would have those kind of doors on that kind of street. I love it.
Right? Like these double doors on this busy street. It even got like the sewer grading too. Like that's kind of interesting, right? It's there also.
Yeah.
Great.
But yeah, so it looks like Metal Gear on the NES would be our next one according to Shark Punch. So I'll get onto that on our next one right away.
Oh,
So
that'll be
yeah,
super fun.
that's it. I just wanted to share that little tidbit that I found out. You know, yo, check this out. So if you have something that you guys want to see on stream, send me a screenshot on our Discord, and I'll be more than happy to interpret that for you in cinematic form.
What shall AI turn into a instant 80s classic?
Yeah, and I feel like you got to send me like a retro one because like modern games are too close to these images. So let's go let's make it work. You know, let's make this AI work for us. So
Keep it classic.
that's right. Well, and that is your check this out for this week. All right. So moving on to everyone's favorite show here, or favorite segment is this week in gaming history. Okay, everybody, welcome to This Week in Gaming History, where we cover this week in gaming history. This week, we're covering June 8th all the way to June 14th, right? And we're going to be talking about specific releases and also our experiences with certain games. There's too many games to name, but we do pick out the ones that are reflective of our experience and our show. So, with that said, let's get started. All right, so June 8th, the first one here, immediately jumping straight into it. Guilty Gear Strive was my choice for this week in gaming history because, you know, even with Exard, I felt like Strive really tried to push the mainstream fighting game into like, you know, the modern scene. Also at the same time, this was the game that got us rollback netcode for all the fighting games that came after it, because this is the one that started it all because it came out just a little bit after COVID, right? Or even during COVID, I should say. And it's, you know, it's getting it's what, third season now, Ace? I don't know, correct me if I'm that.
Yeah, I think they're on like season 3.
Season 3, and matter of fact, I think the industry was so impressed that Arc System Works is now working on the next Marvel versus game, not Marvel versus Capcom, but the next Marvel versus game. And it shows why they chose him. The artwork looks really good. Arc System Works is always kind of like the premier, you know, anime style fighting game. Was always pushing the boundaries, and I think it is also like very thematically based on rock and roll and stuff like that. So I don't know. Have you guys played Strive? or
I did
any?
play it. I did play it in the beta and a little bit after. I was very sad by Strive, just because it just I don't know. I feel like they peaked with Revelator. You
Mhm.
know, like all the correct elements came together, but uh, I was just as equally surprised and didn't think that anyone else was more deserving of getting their hands on Marvel. I mean, you know, it's kind of it's kind of hard for me to parse. I was 14 years old when Guilty Gear came out on the PlayStation. I was 14, 15 years old, thereabout. And to see how hard they've worked all this time with, what now everyone calls an anime fighter,
Yeah.
right? But to see them busting their butt all the way through, all the way up through Guilty Gear X and Guilty Gear X2, right? And the fumbles and all that other stuff. And that they finally, well, hit their, they hit their stride with Strive, I guess. And now it's like, okay, take it on home, right? Do something no one's ever seen. No one has ever seen this before. Not on this level, not in this way, right? Especially with the animations that they brought to the table with Xrd. We're all looking at this and it's like, oh, psych! It's 3D. It's like, shut up. That's amazing, right? And felt right in the hand. All I'm saying is I'm now too old to go rounds with Ace. My hands hurt. I can't be doing that shit no more. But I'm just kind of sitting back on the bleachers. I'm going, oh, isn't this nice? I can't wait to see what happens, because I'll tell you this: I will be watching people's playthroughs. I will be watching their streams of this nonsense and just going, damn, I'm so glad I don't have to take any Advil for this shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, but you look like you're having fun.
And that's what's important. Having
Yep.
fun. Ace, what about you?
Yeah, I've played Strive. I still have my copy sitting around here somewhere. As for whether I'm going to be getting back into it, who knows? But definitely, like, I'm right there with Oliver, though, as far as just feeling that from a standpoint of mechanics and overall polish, I feel like the series peaked with Revelator and with Rev 2. But if they had the net code that they have for Strive, if they had managed to implement something like that for Rev 2 to like completely smooth out the online experience, and I get the feeling that we probably wouldn't be on Strive Season 3 right now, because we'd still all be playing Rev 2.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. And like I felt like when I saw Rev 2, this is the peak of anime fighting game, technology, whatever you want to call it, right? I do Strive was a surprise to me. But Strive felt like the Street Fighter 5 of the Guilty Gear series, right? They went backwards because they wanted everybody to play it. And honestly, I think if I was in that boardroom thinking about what the next Guilty Gear game to make, they're going, how can we make a next Guilty Gear game where everyone can play it, right? And there's no choice but to kind of reset that to like, so it's new to everyone, versus like, Rev and Revelator were more traditionally like Guilty Gear, which if you've been playing Guilty Gear forever, like you wouldn't
Mhm.
stand a chance against those guys. So they wanted to make an equal playing field. That's just to my theory,
Yeah,
but I'm not in that room. So it is a kind of a backwards approach to the game, but hey, man, it's pretty.
not
That's
not arguing with that.
That's all right. Some other games that were released on the 8th. You heard it from the screen here. Disney's Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers was our intro music for today. It came out in 1998 in Japan. Also, Run Saber had released on the Super Nintendo in 1993. And for that Metal Gear fan in chat, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker PSP in 2010. And Strive came out in 2021. So it's just about a 4-year-old game. So not that old. looking forward to a more Arc System, and congratulations on Tokon Fighting Souls. Looking forward to it. All right, June 9th in 2009, a weird little game called Black Sigil: Blade of the Exiled had released. First, I would like to ask the panel, do you guys know about this game?
Nope.
I do not.
Okay. I believe it was Jagos that I introduced this game to, because if you look at the screenshots to this game, it looks like a Chrono Trigger game. And I will pull up a screenshot right now. Let's see here. And the reason I say this is because the font and even the graphics look very, very Chrono Trigger like. Take a look at this thing. Now,
Yeah, somebody in trouble.
um,
Just the font alone, I'm like, oh.
but even like the pixel art,
yeah,
the way it's laid out, the only thing different is the image of the character, right? But isn't that crazy?
just looking at it, like I'm immediately going, yeah, that's 600 AD. Like, of
Yeah.
course it is.
I was about to say, who framed Chrono Trigger?
Right? So I'm actually surprised. Yeah, you guys. I mean, it was a DS game, and this was devved by some weird studio. Let's see here. Developer was based in Montreal called Studio Archcraft. Black Sigil was published by Graffiti Entertainment in 2009. So they clearly had these guys were just Chrono Trigger nerds that made their own game. So let me see if I can find a better screenshot here. But this is pretty crazy. Yeah. Check that out.
Good lord.
So if Nintendo was familiar with this game, which is funny because it is on the DS, they would probably be like, hey, cease and desist. What is this?
Right?
You know? But yes, Black Sigil, Blade of the Exiled, we have Chrono Trigger at home. Also one of the rarest games on the DS, because for a cartridge of this, let me just check real quick.
Oh, he's about to tell me it costs some damn bread.
That's one of my favorite things to do on this show, is tell you how much it is.
He does.
Maybe like 2,000.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much, but it's still pretty crazy. All right, Black Sigil, Blade of the Exiled on the Nintendo DS for a loose price in the cartridge, $55, not bad. With the box, $100. So that box and that manual is pretty expensive. And a new price of $200. So not bad, but still for a DS game, come on now, too much. All right, other games that came out on the 9th, Earthworm Jim on the Genesis in 1994.
Oh, Jesus.
Saber Wolf on the GBA in 2004, made by Killer 7 on the GameCube, PS2 in 2005 in Japan. Prototype on the PS3 and 360 in 2009. That's another game I wish they would make another entry in. Yakuza Dead Souls on the PS3 in 2011 in Japan, and Animal Crossing New Leaf on the 3DS in 2013. All right. On the 10th of June, we got Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit coming out on the PS3 and 360 in 2008. And this one stood out to me because on the PS2 and Xbox, right, we had the Budokai series, Tenkaichi, which was kind of like, over the shoulder, full arena, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one kind of went back to, I think it was like the traditional fighting game for Dragon Ball Z, but you were able to kind of like knock them to the next scene, very similar to like Guilty Gear Strive, which is super interesting. Have any of you guys played Burst Limit?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably the most, at the time in 2008, most impressive looking Dragon Ball Z game that wasn't Tenkaichi, because Tenkaichi was pretty good. But this played like terrible. It felt like your character was underwater the whole time. I think there was a lot of stun lock in the game. It reminds me of like Dragon Ball GT, on the PlayStation.
Oh,
But it was pretty. But it was very pretty. Let's see if I can find a screenshot for this thing. I just know like it had full on voice acting. You could pick
because of
Broly,
course it did.
which is a big thing for me in any Dragon Ball Z game. So let's see here. But this wasn't the full arena like in Sparking Zero. This is more 2D, like on a one lane kind of fighting game. So let's see if I can find this. That's pretty blurry, but this is it's kind of weird that they Restream has kind of changed. Usually it replaces the image. Now it like pushes it to like add another one. So I think Budokai was probably the closest game to this. Not because Tenkaichi was the arena fighter, but this game looked really pretty for 2008. I mean, now Dragon Ball Z games are crazy looking, but for at the time on the PS3 360, this was like the game at the moment. Burst Limit felt like prototype for Raging Blast. That's exactly accurate. Because Raging Blast was actually more like Tenkaichi. And this, like I said, this did not play well. It felt very sluggish. So I can tell they were trying to like figure out something with this game. All right. Do you have something, Ace?
Oh no, I was just saying that's pretty much the MO for most of the stuff that came out around the PS 360 era anyway. Just, developers were figuring it out.
Yeah, for the titles that we loved, I feel like they were definitely trying to get a hold of like which direction they want to take their games and how graphic fidelity they want to take it to. So you are correct. All right, some other games to come out on the 10th. Castlevania Circle of the Moon on the GBA in 2001. Mario Advance on the GBA in 2001. It's almost like the GBA got released that day or something. And Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii in 2010 in Japan. And also a game called Duke Nukem Forever, if anybody knows what that is, came out in 2011. I'm not sure. You guys know the Duke. All right. So it looks like the games came out a day before, but on the 11th, the Game Boy Advance had come out in 2001. And I found this really nice, pretty like copper bronze GBA here, and one of the colors that was released. So
Wow.
So multiple questions for chat. Did you own a GBA, and what color did you get? So there you go. How about you guys?
I had the translucent purple one for a while.
Okay.
And then after that, I got the the Cosmic Red SP.
Oh, Cosmic Red, nice, good choice.
I skipped the base version of Game Boy Advance and went straight to the SP.
Smart man. Better screen with light. The one with the light.
Hell yeah. After I saw what everyone else was going through, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait. I'm like, how about I don't?
You want to know how I got my GBA, the translucent purple one?
Go ahead.
Someone had literally left it sitting next to the fucking trash can right outside the cafeteria with the batteries taken out.
Wow, that's
I just saw it and I'm like,
I have so many questions.
Yeah, so many questions here.
Like,
oh
why?
no, I got some of those disinfectant wipes, wiped it off real quick, got a couple of AA batteries, got me my copy of Dynasty Warriors Advanced, and I was good to go.
Oh yeah. See, my man knew exactly which game to get. That's what
He said it fell off the back of a truck. Like
it might as well.
One of the most interesting things about the Game Boys, I should say, is the amount of accessories you can tack on to this bad boy before it becomes this like Frankenstein of a handheld.
I know, a fucking monstrosity of a system. Yeah. I was having to tell some cats a while back. I was telling them about the Handy Boy for the Game Boy. And it's like, oh, speakers and a magnifier and an additional joystick and bigger buttons and all this. And it legit looks like some shit that Victor Frankenstein would make and then regrets. It's nonsense. Oh no, I remembered that exact that coil light. Oh, you didn't know anybody that didn't have one. Essentially, it was
Yeah.
just if you had a Game Boy Advance,
Like
it was
you must play
required.
GBA only in the daytime.
Right, like it's just required to have it. It just makes
uh,
me glad that Nintendo got smart enough to look at that stuff, and instead of just going, "We're going to keep doing the same thing," they're like, "Oh, this lighting is an issue. Okay, let's do something about it."
it only took them what, like 3 iterations for it to like
Yeah,
for a light to sink in.
Mhm.
like, oh, we should put lights in this damn thing.
Now here's a Game Boy that is living the life. He's got all the gear.
Oh, yeah, that's the fucking handy boy. That's what that shit looks like.
Like,
I
do you
had that
really
at 12.
need that extra joystick and those 2 buttons right there?
No, you absolutely do not. It's like a separate clip-on. It's a
Yeah,
separate little
exactly.
clip-on in there, and it's like, oh, okay. But the light was very very good, and the speakers didn't do a ton of extra power draw,
Mm.
so it was actually decent. But Jesus Christ, look at it, it's horrifying.
This
I'm
I've
waiting for it
never
to take off.
I've never seen a Game Boy Advance wearing armor before, or a Game Boy wearing armor in its final form, you know? So it's
Yeah,
kind of crazy.
Seriously, you want to know what this reminds me of? I don't know why, but every time I see the handy boy hooked up on the brick, I keep thinking of Michael Jackson's mecha form in Moonwalker.
oh,
I don't know why.
That is facts, sir. That is
yeah, that's my jam right there.
It
Handy
always
boy.
looks like a transformer halfway. That's
And it really
pretty
was.
true.
It was like a fucking transformer. It was great. You'd be like, "Oh, this isn't portable anymore at all."
Oh,
Oh,
Nick's in the
God
chat.
forbid!
Say hi to Nick.
Like seriously, don't let the Allspark bring that.
This thing is crazy, man.
It'd be a shit show.
All right, let's see here. Other things to come out on the 11th of June. Mighty Final Fight on a Nintendo in 1993 in Japan. Mario Golf on the N64 in 1999 in Japan. Now, Street Fighter EX2 Plus, not Alpha, just EX2 Plus. It came out in the arcades in 1999 in Japan. Tekken Revolution, that really weird Tekken game that they released only on the PS3 in 2013, which is actually the choice of music that I have on Tekken 8 because I like their music. Contra Anniversary Collection came out on basically everything in 2019. And also Samurai Showdown, the Neo Geo Collection came out on PC in 2020. Now, Ace, I see a little highlight here for EX Plus or EX2 Plus.
Oh
What you got
yeah.
for us?
So this was actually a surprise addition to my local arcade back in like 98, 99. I mean, everybody else was still playing, like Samurai Showdown and, KOF 99. We were playing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But when the cabinet hit for Street Fighter EX2 or for EX2 Plus, firstly, it was my first time actually, seeing that Street Fighter seeing that Street Fighter EX actually had a sequel. But then I saw EX2 Plus and I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on here. And absolutely loved the vast majority of the changes that were made to it. The only thing that was missing was the baller soundtrack from EX Plus Alpha. I'm like, this music's okay, but yeah, I needs that. But
Yeah, that's some cool.
other than that, the addition of the Excel mode, bringing in custom combos to Street Fighter EX that was a game changer because it opened up the gameplay so much. In addition to the guard breaks and the meteor cancels, being able to cancel from one super move to the next, and what's more, actually giving everybody, level 3 supers as well. So seeing the Shin Shoryuken for the first time in 3D.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I think arguably
Choice.
this is our first 3D Street Fighter game before 4, right? And yeah, I feel like this gets kind of skipped over because it was developed by Akira, wasn't it? When not really Capcom.
Mhm.
And it actually played really nice, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I enjoyed the new characters also. I enjoyed the gameplay. Like, yeah, no complaints.
Yeah, I was a Volcano Rosso and Darren man.
Not D Dark.
No, dude. Have you actually Have you actually landed the God?
If I knew what you're talking about, I'd say yes.
Exactly. Gamble of Darren. That's Darren's level 3. And if you actually get all of if you land this on someone and you get all of the commands, even the hidden finisher command, and you actually win the toss up, that is it. The round is done. They're dead.
Now, Darren, the guy in the purple gi, that's Alan, right?
No, that's Alan.
Okay. The guy that I like was the gangster with was it Cracker Jack?
Jack?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Then I liked him. He had the bat and everything. So that was really cool. Okay, because he reminded me of Ryoma. I was like, if Ryoma was in this game, that's basically this
right?
dude. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Brings back memories. So when are you gonna stream that for your audience? That'd be a good one.
You know what?
Honestly, on related to that, I've kind of been wondering when is Capcom gonna release those games? Are they ever gonna HD those bad boys up? I mean, we've had all those fighting collections
Oh
come
my
along, right?
god, I wish.
I feel like if they did, it would have to come with that the other game that they made with Terry in it. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
That new one. I would love to see that
with Fighting EX Layer.
Yeah, fighting. Yeah, that would be like the hybrid, right? The EX games, right? EX Layer, EX Alpha, EX Plus.
Or hell, no. Bring out the collection with Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha, EX2 Plus, EX3, and not Fighting EX Layer, but the original Fighting Layer.
Even better. That's such
there's
value.
quite a few of those games.
Yeah, and what if like they were just so kind and polite to the audience, and they were like, we're even gonna sneak in the busted version of Final Fight Revenge in there for us,
right? Oh, one more thing about the EX games, though, just before we move on, the expert mode and the trial mode in the Street Fighter EX games is literally like, if you ever wanted to sit down and learn fighting game fundamentals, play through those missions.
All right. Hear that, chat?
Like, you will learn everything from 1-frame links to 2-in-1s. You got your supers, your cancels. Hell, you'll even learn about buffering and negative edge.
Is this purchasable now through modern consoles?
Not for the modern consoles, but I do believe I have still seen like some retro stores with copies of Street Fighter EX2 Plus for the PlayStation.
Okay, but like, there's no digital version of this, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's no digital version.
I guess that makes sense because it is like Akira. They would have to get it for get that released from Akira. So. No, check it out. I just know from the thing that stood out the most was the Tatsus in this game because they look different than they did in the 2D version, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool actually. Like it's kind of like a Rekka motion, so it's super cool. All right.
I'd like to see that come back in a more recent Street Fighter.
Right. Here's a game that I'd like to see come back. Well, it did come back actually. I think it was called like Repop or something.
Yes.
But yes, Lollipop Chainsaw on the PS3 and 360 came out in 2012. One of the more unique games out there, I believe. At the time, it was very much a timepiece, right? And it was like. Was this the same guys that did like Shadows of the Damned?
No,
like,
that is
Grasshopper Manufacturer. No, this is the
Suda
team
51.
that did die.
So this is not Suda, a Suda game.
No, it is. It totally is.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a Suda joint.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's kind of Suda 51 kind of reminds me of like A24 in the movies, right? They have like their own style of making their games, right? And are they even still around? like Suda 51?
Yeah.
Anybody
Homie's hanging out. He's hanging out.
Because they're kind of like, it says Games Gun actually helped Suda 50 with this game. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, what was the game that just got announced, you guys? It's a new Suda 51
Romeo's
game.
a Dead Man.
Romeo's a Dead Man. Yep.
See, that sounds awesome.
Oh, it's absolutely bonkers looking. You're like, we knew the second we saw the shit, it was like, yeah, there's only one guy that does crazy shit like this. Bam, it popped up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm here for it, man. You sold me on No More Heroes decades ago, and I'm just, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, No More Heroes is pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the demonic fusion of No More Heroes and Rick and Morty.
Oh God.
Like that's the vibe that I got from Dead Man, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm in.
Jago
He's out here
says
wilding,
Lollipop
yeah.
Chainsaw is so weird. Everyone liked it, but no reviewers played it. Looks like they wanted to bury it. It kind
think
of
we all know
sounds
why.
like they got the God Hand treatment, right?
Oh, yeah.
All the
Yeah.
game journals were like, "This is a terrible game," but all the gamers were like, "This is so fun and stupid," you know.
I think that's
Yeah.
an important point that gets
Yeah.
missed a lot.
Yep.
This is fun and stupid. People kind of tend to forget that we are actually aware that, quite a few games are just kind of fucking dumb. like of course they are. Like, this is the stupidest premise ever. I mean, but that's part of what we're buying, right? Like, no one cared about God Hand until they started playing it, and then word of mouth, they're like, this is fucking nuts. You could just kick a guy in the nuts. So you're like, get out. And then it just keeps going. We're like, this is the corniest fucking shit I've ever seen. I love it.
Yeah.
And imagine babies.
I just feel like journos don't have a sense of humor. They just take everything too serious. Like,
Anymore.
relax.
Yeah. It's a very frustrating point for me. Like, as someone that worked in that, and it's like, well, you got to remember why we're even doing this. We do this to talk about things that are fun. We talk about entertainment, and somewhere along the line, they forgot that you are looking at entertainment, and sometimes we just don't have to take shit so seriously.
Mm-hmm. I've always said that about movies. Like, not every movie's gonna win an Oscar, but it doesn't mean it's a bad movie, right? It's just doesn't have those things that they're looking for in an Oscar, right?
Absolutely. The way I describe it, I say, I didn't come here looking for fucking Shakespeare. Right? Like, the best example of that was way back in the day when the first Michael Bay Transformers came out, and people were like being hypercritical and all this other stuff and all this. I was like, I didn't come for Shakespeare. I came to see big fucking robots beat the shit out of each other. It's like, did it deliver that? Yes. Yep. I'm happy. It's just very simple.
I think there was also a comedian that said, like, I can't remember who it was, but it's like, can you imagine if Transformers the movie came out in 1950? People would just be like, oh my God, they're invading. It's so real. Like, yeah, we
They'd
clearly have. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, this. And then he's like, people's head would just start exploding. What's happening? I forgot who it was, but I think it was Nick Swardson, but I can't remember who it was completely.
Yeah, it'd very much be a very War of the Worlds type scenario. Like, you got to be careful with that shit.
Speaking of games to be careful with, StarCraft 64 on the N64 came out in 2000, because that game is super addicting. I don't know about the 64 version, but I do know the regular StarCraft was really, really addicting. Metal Slug 4 on the Neo Geo in 2002. Tenchu Z, which I don't think I played, on the 360 in 2007. MGS4, Metal Gear Solid 4, if you guys don't know what that is. Guns of the Patriots came out on the PS3 in 2008. Gravity Rush in the Vita in 2012 as well. So, solid day for gaming.
It is a good day. Gravity Rush is fantastic.
Yeah, hard to get a copy of. Also, just a physical copy.
Really, for the Vita or just period?
I know the Vita is like it's not that hard, but it's still like it is a Vita game, so there's not a lot of them made. But the PS4 version, super hard to find.
Wow.
I think they only released. I think Amazon was the only one able to distribute it. So, and a lot of people didn't know that. And so a lot of the copies you see now are like people that bought it from Amazon and they either like resold it or like it's a secondhand copy. But 2 didn't have that problem. 2 came out on everything.
Oh yeah, wow. No, because I have I have Gravity Rush 2 physical.
Yeah.
Right, but yeah, no, you're right. That shit is expensive. It's like $80.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, for like a game like that, it came out in 2012. Like, it has no reason being $80.
It's unique as shit. That's
Well,
what's it's very
speaking of
unique game.
pretty cool. So I've been misled by this game many times because people have been posting fake Legend of Dragoon remakes on social media, and I was like, oh my god, they're finally doing it. So now I just don't believe anything that I see on social media, as you guys should. Either don't believe everything you see on social media, but yes, Legend of Dragoon came out on the PlayStation in 2000, and with the release and success of Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I feel like this game has a really good shot of being remade and in the original form, but at the same time, better graphics, better story, better music, all the above. So, I for one don't have too much experience in this game, but I know Ace does.
Oh yeah, and I was streaming through it for a while a few years back. I should probably sit down and actually finish that. Well, again, but Legend of Dragoon is definitely one of those. Well, I wouldn't say it's slept on, considering just how much support there has been even before Expedition 33's release. How much support there has been for for Sony to actually come back and do either a proper HD upscaling or just a straight up remake. But the combat system is, well, even for its time, the combat system was so unique because even for turn-based RPGs, because you really need to you really needed to keep on your toes with the additional skill system, and also with how they implemented counterattacks within that system as well. So it's like you can't just you can't just stick to hitting confirm in time to the rhythm for each of the combo attacks, because once you get that cue that a counterattack's coming up, you kind of have to go against your muscle memory, like, oh wait a minute, I need to hit this and not get whacked in the face.
So you still gotta pay attention. You can't just like use your muscle memory or rhythm to it.
Very much so. And there was even, active inputs for the Dragoon transformations and the Dragoon skills for magic, for utilizing items as well. All of that. If you go back and play Legend of Dragoon, you will very easily see the DNA for Expedition 33.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of Final Fantasy fans have been waiting for, like the true diehard ones that are like, I miss Final Fantasy, right? And that resonates differently with a lot of people when I say that, right? Depending on which one you started at. But honestly, like I saw so many comments, so many like posts about, Expedition 33 should have been what the Final Fantasy 16 was. Like that's what they want. That's just what they're thinking about, how they need to go back to the old school turn-based, but make it interesting. And I don't disagree. I feel like this keeps people engaged at the same time, and clearly it's made a success. So there was somebody saying that Square is probably kicking themselves right now because of the success of Expedition 33.
Oh, without question.
So, yeah, no, that's awesome. Because I'm looking forward to hearing if Sony was going to do something with this. I read somewhere that they lost the source code for this game, so that's why they're like, that's why we can't make it. And I was like, that's a terrible excuse, because you still have it, for digital. You can buy it digitally. I don't know how that works, but it's there. So, but yes, if here's the thing: if Sony wants to charge us $80 games, I better get a complete Legend of Dragoon experience. Give me like 4 discs. Like I would love that. I would love to go back to those times where my games were like 4 discs big, right? So that'd be fun.
And it's not 3 discs to install and 1
yeah,
no,
exactly.
I want to start the game and have to start at disc 1.
Yeah. Next disc. You're like, when was the last time you guys had to do that? I think mine it has to be Metal Gear. I think I remember doing that for Metal Gear 4.
Yeah. Like, wow, you made me think just about disc switching. I was like, when was the last time I had to switch fucking disc? Like, oh my god, it's been a very long time for that.
Yeah. Metal Gear 4, I do remember. I'm like, because I remember I was like, I still have to do that. I remember saying that.
Hold on, I think one of the more recent Tales games actually had us switching over to a second disc at least.
Like on the PS3 or
Yeah.
PS4? Okay. Vesperia? No, I've never played Vesperia, so I don't know. So that'd be a good one. Chat, if you know, put it in chat. Would love to kind of know that. That'd be interesting. Or what was the last game you guys played that you had to switch discs for? So because that's a callback, 100% callback. Also, shout out to No Shoes in chat. Your hat's here somewhere. I don't know where it went. I just had it on a few minutes ago before the stream.
That's good. According to Shark Punch, Metal Gear Solid 4 is going to be part of the next collection.
Ooh, that's a big one too. I've been meaning to replay that, so hopefully, nice quality of life changes in that.
You know, right down to it's going to be super interesting, right? If they're really putting in the work too, which Konami is trying to have a redemption arc right now, but just that fucking installation. In the first place, they're like, okay, you're gonna play Metal Gear, come back in 2 hours, brother. Right, that was so long ago.
Yeah,
like,
and that kind of takes me back to earlier, one of the other games that popped off this week in gaming history, freaking Yakuza Dead Souls. This was back when they had back when they had the little cutscenes that happened during the installations.
Yeah. I was thinking like maybe they should have let us play Nintendo NES Metal Gear while we were waiting for the install. That would have been.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
Yeah, fun callback to that. So kind of or like a little like recap of like all the Metal Gear storyline up to that point would kind of be nice. Something to watch, be entertained. So, but yes, other games that came out on the 13th. I don't know if anybody knows this game, but I remember renting it from Albert Video in Chicago in 1987, called Star Soldier for the Nintendo, which came out in 1986. Anybody remember Star Soldier? It was definitely a shmup. We have Life Force at home, and like it was made at home.
Star Soldier, yes, absolutely. So. It is, it's definitely Life Force.
Yeah, we home. At home, 100%.
Oh 100%. Wow.
So yeah, I brought that one. Was like that's one of those games you're like, that's all I have. I can't afford Life Force.
Wow, right. Listen, you just have me juiced up because like it's like literally 4 dudes on Earth that know about Life Force. It's me, you, my brother, and I don't know what other guy that lives in like Albuquerque or some shit like that. It's great
because Gradius gets all the
it gets all the love, right?
But Life Force
and R-Type, Life Force for 2 players. Come on, this is the cream of the crop.
And I'm not gonna lie, I purposely put 2 players so I can be the red ship.
Hell yeah.
I just let player 1 die the whole time.
Yeah, me and my brother dropped hours up in that game. Again, just like you said, because when your ass is poor and you can't buy any more games, you learn to get really good at what you got.
Yes,
right?
Sir.
No, that was it.
Yeah,
let me just say this. I love that you do this segment of the show. This is probably my favorite part of your show. Because it makes me jump back in time, like in so many different ways. I'm like, oh man, how could I forget that? How could I forget that? No, it's all right. This is good.
We literally talked about swapping discs, and we talked about Life Force, and we showed you. We talked about Jackal. So
right,
I love bringing back games. You guys are like, what? I thought nobody knew about that game.
Right. Yeah, I feel dusty but seen.
Exactly.
Dusty but validated.
Yeah. I'm like, oh man. I'm turning to fucking dust in front of you, but I'm like, at least you found my tomb. So
right. And this is why I enjoy This Week in Gaming History, because like we'll find some like game we haven't heard about and like, oh, you knew about that? I didn't know about that. Like I thought I was the only one,
Yeah.
It's really entertaining.
It's wonderful.
And I love how chat just talks about how old we are.
I know.
So, that's great. But yeah,
I'm
Star
just gonna throw them all away.
Also, the Armored Core Last Raven came out in 2006 on the PS2. Was that the last Armored Core game on the PS2, Ace? You know?
Actually, yeah, it was.
Perfect.
It's actually kind of funny because the game that I chose for the day, Legend of Dragoon, but then the last two on this list, both the Armored Core Last Raven and Street Fighter Alpha Anthology, both came out on the same day for the PS2, and I actually picked them both up.
This was the day, man. This was your day.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta say, right? And see, we just heard another story from Ace. He picked up both of these games on the same day back in when they got released. So that's great. I love hearing about that. I do remember snagging a copy of Street Fighter Alpha Anthology because the value of that was so good. I think it was like four anthology games because they even did Street Fighter 2 Gold Alpha, I think.
Yeah, it was Alpha, Alpha 2, Alpha 2 Gold, and 3. And it wasn't just those 4 games, but it was the arcade and console ports of those games all on that one disc.
Yeah, that was the OG Capcom fighting or Street Fighting collection right there for Street Fighter. So yeah, they Capcom really has a history of making these anthologies, and honestly, like keep at it. We love it. And no matter what you guys or all the haters say, we love it, man. We love getting back our games accessible and easy to play, all with the crazy artwork. We love seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I've never seen the artwork for Power Stone 2. I didn't have a Dreamcast, right? I want to see that stuff.
You're making a great point that I had not stopped to consider until you just said that.
There we go.
Like, out of all the companies out there, Capcom is incredibly consistent about keeping their classic, best games of all time, keeping them available on current hardware. Like, just sitting and thinking about it, I was like, yeah,
the
they're
Street Fighter
really good at
collection
that.
disc on the PlayStation.
Right. Like, just like you said with the anthology and thinking about the Mega Man collections that they did on PS2 and
both of the Mega Man X collections.
And making sure that the advanced games Battle Network didn't get lost. Like, no, they do a really good job on keeping the biggest classics out there, fresh, current, in front of people. No, they're really good at that. Now, I just need them to bring back the Bonnet Commando Rearmed games. It's been a while.
Yeah. Yep. I was thinking about that too. I was hoping you'd say a Breath of Fire anthology, but I'll take that also.
I wish.
Because if they did a Blu-ray of Breath of Fire, all 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, I was about to say one through Dragon Quarter.
Yeah, 1 through Dragon Quarter, I would love, and that all fits on one disc. Come on now, you guys can do that. You guys own Breath of Fire. You don't have to fight anybody for that. Come on, Capcom, you can do it. Promise you can do it. We support it.
And of course, speaking of Capcom games with potential, imagine how many more different Capcom game collaborations they could have done for Exoprimal.
Oh my gosh,
more of their franchises had been out there in front of people.
I agree with you because I can already see Commando, Mega Man, of course, Mega Man.
That Yellow Devil fight was wild.
I'll throw in a really obscure Capcom game. Ready? Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke. Wow.
Right. Or any 1943 game that they released. Like all those games could have been there.
Look, Exoprimal cross Piano 3.
Bruh.
Gone all the way back. Like, no, I zoomed off. I went fucking full Vietnam. I'm like, God, he's always talking about some old shit that nobody else knows. It's great.
I try to one up with Gunsmoke. So
Gunsmoke. Oh my God.
Yeah, you guys know what Gunsmoke is?
Tell me about Gunsmoke.
It's a shmup, cowboy shmup. So pretty cool.
Primal Cross Haunting Ground would have been interesting.
Oh my gosh! Pretty much any of those like suits that matches like their games would have been perfect, right? Like who was saying in chat? Andre saying a Virgil suit for the samurai guy.
Yes,
right. That would have been so sick, like a devil form or something like that. Yeah, no, like that could have been a Bionic Commando.
Vigilant with the skin of Nilan from Remember Me. Thank you, Andre.
right? Just they could have so much fun with their own. Like I said, Capcom has such a deep book of encyclopedia of things they can work with. So
Godhand Zephyr. I'm done.
oh, there you go, you got it. Here, a company that doesn't have a lot to work with, I would say, is Midway right now. Because I have not heard anything from PsyOps, the MindGate conspiracy, since 2004. But arguably was actually a pretty decent game at the time. I don't know if you guys played it or not.
I have not played it, but I definitely did know of it.
Ace, have you played PsyOps? This was at Reset all the time.
Nah, haven't played PsyOps. Heard of it, but haven't really picked it up.
So if if the Force Unleashed had a gun instead of a lightsaber, I would say PsyOps would be the closest thing to that. But it's very uncommon. It's very uncommon for Midway to make games that is not Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, Blitz during that time. The only other game I can think of that Midway made aside from this one on the PS2 was probably Area 51 and also Narc. They remade Narc. Right.
Which shocked the hell out of me.
Right.
I always be talking about Narc, man. I talk about Narc like once a week. I'm like, dog, you shoot a dude on PCP with a fucking missile. I was like, no holds are barred at this point.
You know, and I applaud Midway for attempting to dabble into their other IPs and stuff. But this was actually considered a success to them because I know like at Reset, this game sold pretty well. Like a lot of people knew about this game. And oddly enough, they were like usually the non-gamer types. They were like looking for some dude that was like just wanted to play games on his day off that didn't play video games. Like this is the game that they chose because it looks like an 80s action movie, right? So, and it was selling to the right people, I guess. Like, it had its audience, but not the audience that we think it is. So that's all I really got for that. I played it very briefly when I was testing out consoles, but not too much into it. Midway peaked in the PS2. You right, Andre? You're right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Right. I know I bought a lot of their Blitz games, that's for sure.
The goddamn arcade collections.
Oh yeah, 100%. I love it. Rampage. Yep, all about that. And getting near the end here, last few games on the 14th. Tetris came out on the Game Boy in 1989. Donkey Kong also came out on the Game Boy in 1994. Eternal Sonata came out in 360 in 2007 in Japan. That's a game that needs to come back in some way or form to be replayed again on modern console. And a couple games here. The Last of Us on the PS3. That's where it all started in 2013. And Dead by Daylight on the PC in 2016. Fun story about Dead by Daylight. Didn't know what it was until I started watching streamers play it. And that's how I got into Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, I had sat down and it was actually with a couple of our folks from the Metro City Boys podcast, but I sat down and played Dead by Daylight a couple of times, and I was the killer.
Nice.
And every time I snuck up on someone, it never failed. I did my best Homer Simpson impression on What's Good Neighborhood?
You should have modded Homer Simpson next time.
Hey, bro, you want to see what the chainsaw hockey mask?
Yeah, it's Krusty the Clown.
Oh my, yes.
Hey, and then this just come out of nowhere.
I'm sorry, Chainsaw and Hockey Mask Homer, Krusty the Clown, and Sideshow Bob would have been the best killers to add to Dead by Daylight.
That'd be funny. I was gonna say, before we move on to the next one, snap. Anyway, that is your week in gaming history. Oh, wrong one. I'm all about the wrong buttons. All right, chat. So, as you guys know, Nick is not here today. He's being a pop, being a dad. So I'll have Ace take over the SGF Spotlight in 2025 as we go through the topics for today. And as he's chatting, I will try to find as much gameplay footage in the background for you guys to watch. Please feel free to discuss and add anything to the conversation. So Ace, take her away.
So, as was, just mentioned, I am going to be your substitute teacher for the news today. But, again, once we hit the rumor mill section, just remember to take everything with a large grain of salt because, news is always developing. But this week, was actually pretty jam packed just with so many different announcements and trailers from Summer Game Fest and the plethora of presentations that have that were launched this weekend. You could honestly say that Summer Game Fest 2025 or just Summer Game Fest in general, you could you could be forgiven if you were to call that the new E3 or the replacement for E3 because that that has become the big industry event where not only are games being announced, but you know, developers, publishers, and talent inside the gaming industry is all being gathered together to to network, to show off what's coming down the pike. I mean, yeah, let's face it, it pretty much is the new E3. And of course, Summer Game Fest isn't necessarily one of those public facing events where you can purchase tickets to it and go as a spectator. But since they stream it, the whole world is watching. That said, though, let's go ahead and get down to actually covering some of the stuff that has been showcased and some of the stuff that has been revealed at SGF 2025. It's some of these announcements, some of them are doozies. I'm not going to lie. So with that said, let me go ahead and pull up. This listing here. We've literally got everything announced during SGF 2025, and we'll just go. We'll just start right from the top. Now, this right here was, remember how I mentioned the plethora of showcases over the course of this past weekend? I mean, Friday was Summer Games Fest, Day of the Devs, and the IO Interactive Showcase, which IO Interactive actually showed off one of their pretty big titles coming up that actually got my attention a little bit. And we'll be discussing that after we get past this listing. On Saturday, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, plenty. All of them specializing, and focusing more on, I guess more on what you could call, developers from minority groups. And then of course, Sunday, June 8th, that was your non-Sony, non-Nintendo stuff. So PC gaming, Xbox Game Showcase, and the premiere of one of the major players at Summer Games Fest, that being Death Stranding 2. So let's just go ahead and get right down to it. Oh, that's the Xbox game stuff. I'm looking for the listing. Or was it here? Here we go. So here we got ourselves just a straight up list of some of the major players that were showcased at Summer Games Fest. Starting with the Outer Worlds 2. Now, when I saw Outer Worlds 2 come up, I honestly wasn't necessarily expecting it, largely because it seemed like the first game was a relatively contained narrative. I didn't necessarily expect a sequel to come off of that, but seeing what was done not just for the direct for Outer Worlds 2, but showing off the gameplay footage and showing off some of the dialogue, it really did look like they took everything that made the Outer Worlds unique, especially compared to like Fallout New Vegas. And they really picked up and just honed in on that. I can go ahead and pull up the see if I can get the trailer to pop up here. Well, oh, Why is it not showing that? Huh. Hello, technical difficulties. Oh, that's why, because it's showing this specific tab. That's better. Now, for the folks that are actually, fans of games like Fallout and games like things like the Outer Worlds, you take a look at this and you are immediately going to recognize, you're immediately going to recognize a lot of design elements and just a lot of the story from the first one it was in. But again, it's as it's a sequel, you can expect it to go bigger, expect it to go bolder, expect it to go more compared to the first.
I admit that they showed very well.
Right, and of course, during the direct, there was mention of how they're bringing back the perk system. The perks and the flaws, like everyone's personal favorite, bad knees.
That had me in stitches. I was like, "How are you gonna make a game mechanic?" And then knees said "crack," and all the dudes turned around. I was like, "Oh, yeah, no, you did it."
You stand up, your knees rattle like a machine gun, and everyone gets the Metal Gear Solid exclamation point. Just, what was that noise?
I'm really proud of him for figuring that out. I was like, "This is it. Like we've now peaked with gaming. That's it. Once we got bad kneecaps in there, we're not doing any better."
Now, as GQ mentioned in the chat, this is going to be this is going to be among, the first of of an upcoming slate of games that are going to be retailing for the base package, starting at $80, and that does have a good number of folks, questioning a few things as far as whether or not they're going to purchase the game. But again, this is definitely going to be a wait and see kind of proceeding here.
Yeah, for sure.
That said, outside of bad knees, what do you guys' take on this so far?
I think that these guys obviously have a ton of pedigree. Obsidian, it's many of them are former Interplay devs and Black Isle and things like that. I never finished Outer Worlds, but the first game is very much so. Just when you play it and you have it in your hand, it's Fallout 4 without the VATS, right? And it's very, very gray and very goofy, right? So I'm kind of excited. Like I think I want to jump into Outer Worlds 2 just because I really did enjoy my experience with that, and not to mention, I'm just for people who still haven't seen it yet for some reason, the secret level episode of Outer Worlds, top tier dumb. It was
good.
great.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was like, oh, they abusing Forrest Gump. That was the whole episode. I was like, oh, Forrest Gump is chasing Jenny in space, but they abusing the privilege.
Right?
Great.
And from what they mentioned in the direct, dumb is one of the flaws that folks seem to really like getting.
Like, yeah, let me get just a top tier idiot. Like, let's go with it. Banging on stuff to make it work. I'm like, yeah, like let's go, let's do it.
But yeah, it seems like Fallout minus VATS that's the general consensus that I've seen as far as the most direct way to describe the game for someone getting ready to play it.
Yep. It really is. You just don't have a VAT system.
It's like Fallout without VATs and bad knees.
Bad crackling ass knees, man.
We try to play games to escape the bad knees, man.
That's exactly what I was going to get back to.
Oh
It's
my
like, you know
God.
what? It's I'm being attacked and being seen at the same time. You know, you're just like, what do I do with this?
Feeling dusty yet violated. Yet
Mhm.
validated. Not violated. What the? Don't mind me. I am an idiot. But GQ, what about you, man?
As far as Outer Worlds 2, I don't have much experience in Skyrim-esque, Fallout-esque games. I've never played any Fallout game. I know it's probably shocking to a lot of people, but
Really?
yeah, I've never touched a Fallout game. I know all about it because I'm surrounded by people that do play those games.
Yeah, of course.
But personally, I have not played a Fallout game to its like fully or even 2 hours in. I don't know, but I don't know why. Outer Worlds has charm, and I think that's what draws me to the game if I were to choose, right? And I know that this game is its strong point is its to me it's like its writing, its art direction. Because the first one, I actually have the first one in my collection, and I do want to play it eventually when people pressure me enough, just like with Mass Effect, right? But it's just one of those games. I think it leaves me paralyzed when there's too much to do.
Yeah,
Maybe
no. I know
uh,
exactly what you're talking about with that. Like the choice paralysis can get real in an open world game where it's like, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you could do that. You're like, I have no clue which thing I should prioritize first. I'm just gonna stand here and wait until something fucking happens to me that forces your hand.
I'll put it to you this way: there's games that aren't like fully open world where that kind of thing can happen. Warframe is a perfect example. You know, if you don't sit down and actually find something to focus on, you are going to be spoiled for choice, and that is definitely going to lead to choice paralysis. It's wild, but it is definitely real.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, it's not a bad thing that like it's almost I'm intimidated by it, right? Like or no, because here I'll put it straight to you. Am I gonna be just sucked into this game that I'm gonna stop playing my other games? That's literally what it is. Yeah. So it's a good thing, but I'm like kind of conscious of my time, and I just don't want to get stuck on one game like too long.
I definitely feel that. All right, so considering that there has been a lot that actually came out this weekend, we're going to try and move on. We're going to try and keep it pushing at a pretty steady clip. There's a laundry list of games that we got here, but there's a few that are definitely standouts that I do want to try and have us focus on. The next of which being the one that's right up here on the screen right now, and that being what has pretty much come to be called the Capcom Swerve. That being Resident Evil 9 or Resident Evil Requiem. They threw the trailer for that at us at the end of the show, and honestly, I wasn't paying too much attention to the dialogue. I didn't even know that was actually Resident Evil until the very end of the trailer, and I'll pull this up just all right. Well, the part that I'm talking about.
Get out of here, Jeff.
Move it.
We can't afford you.
Right here, where I had this real sort of manhunt vibe going.
So the scene in the beginning where they had the RE1 zombie turn around, I honestly thought it was a remake of the first game, like in RE4 style. And I was like, oh, they did it. They went back to the first game, but they're doing it like RE4, like the shoulder camera kind of thing. Then, like you said, threw us for a swerve, and I was like, this is an RE engine, but it doesn't look like they're doing the first game. So that's why I kept watching.
Right. And again, just how the text on the Requiem went from REQ to RE9. I think that right there was like the moment where there was that major pop where it's like, oh man, here we go. This this is happening.
Yeah. So the first question is, how are they going to handle this? For third person, first person, is it going to feel more like RE1, RE4, a Revelations? What do you guys think?
Well, even after even aside from this, there's been of course, there's articles out talking about it, but the general consensus from what I've seen as far as the articles go, is that they're really trying to take it back to you know, more of the classic survival horror vibe. And again, the fact that RE9 is taking place in post nuke Raccoon City, that story beat alone, that got my attention. And I'm not even the biggest Resident Evil fan. That's just, not
Yeah.
quite my cup of tea, but definitely, it's definitely something that's got me eyeballing it going, okay, what's happening next?
Yeah. And
What
the
y'all
main
cooking over
character,
there?
Mhm.
What
I
you
think
cooking?
the main character is the daughter of one of the
Well,
characters in RE Outbreak.
yeah.
So that makes it interesting too.
So yeah, it's little deep cuts for Resident Evil fans, and even the occasional Resident Evil passerby that keeps their finger on the pulse of the story for at the very least main characters like the Redfields, Leon, you know Wesker, anything revolving around Umbrella. If you have heard of Resident Evil, you may have at the very least heard of Resident Evil Outbreak. Thus, you've got the mention of a legacy character from Outbreak as your main player. Again, the mention of going back to Raccoon City and, seeing the aftermath of the place after it's been bombed damn near back to the Stone Age. It's a great setup. Now, you got to see how Capcom executes.
Yeah, we just need more detail, because if you leave too much to the imagination, we were just talking about this with the Avengers, Ace. Remember that? If you leave
Mm-hmm.
too much to the imagination, it sets it up for failure when people start thinking and believing that this game will be a certain way. Because like I said, if for example, let's just if they do like one screenshot of gameplay, like not even a video, and they go, oh my god, it's just like RE1, they're gonna think it's like more survival horror. There's gonna be less items for you to pick up, right? And your character is not gonna be as strong, right? But it's nothing like that. That player immediately will probably thumbs this down, just because they thought that it was a certain game and it's not exactly what kind of game it was. So they need
You
to
know,
start giving us more details about this game.
it's that people don't want to get taken for a ruse cruise when they're highly expecting something. So a little bit of transparency goes a long way.
Yeah, especially for $80. Yeah, I'm no mercy from me anymore.
Right. Uh, Moving on to the next one. Now, I bring up the trailer here for Cyberpunk 2077, being announced for the Switch 2. Not necessarily for the game itself, but for the Switch 2. You know, there were there were a good number of games that were actually released, that were actually dropped on launch, that honestly folks weren't expecting a Nintendo system to be able to pull off, at least not until, not this generation, but the one following. So the fact that games like Street Fighter 6 and Cyberpunk 2077 and heck, even Hogwarts Legacy are going to be playable on the Switch 2 and playable to a, playable to an acceptable standard for modern console games, it's definitely something that's got a lot of people talking. So, Oliver, since you've got a Switch 2 on hand,
Yes,
and
sir.
you've been streaming from it the last couple of days, showcasing games and showcasing what's been updated since then. Can you give us a little bit more of a rundown as far as your experience with the system itself?
You know, I'm glad you asked because, obviously it's been out for not even a week yet. And I think it's very easy to get a real nice, upfront, clean assessment of the hardware. If you like the Nintendo Switch, you're going to have a good time here. It's the same shit, just better. It's kind of like, okay, this is a very stupid comparison, but it's like, I want you to imagine you like McDonald's cheeseburgers, right? You're like,
I
no,
like McDonald's
no
cheeseburgers.
McDonald's cheeseburger. Now, all I do is I go, I got a new joint for you. You ready for it? Bust out the fucking double cheeseburger. It's the exact same shit, but you're like, oh, more of what I already liked. Boom, just like that. Just of course it's gonna work, and that's really what you're looking at here with the Switch too. And I'm not like trying to be vague or anything like that. I mean, it's quite literal. Everything that you liked, they just came back and refined it, right? The Joy-Con are a little bit bigger, right? They're probably a half an inch to an inch longer. So for guys that have bigger hands, it's a way more comfortable fit. Everything's got these very smooth, rounded edges. The ergonomics are a lot better. I'll just start on the outside, right, from Joy-Cons in, and just kind of break it down. Those are really good. The shoulder buttons are massive. Like, let me go ahead and just reach down and grab one of those real quick. Bring that up here. So, when you're looking at this bad boy, the shoulder actually comes all the way down here. That's still clickable in order to make the mouse functionality work. And I'll tell you right now, that shit works. I was like, there's no chance in hell. No, it absolutely works. You just slap that bad boy down, you're automatically in mouse mode. I'm literally watching it on screen right now. Like, oh, it does it. And there's just so much smart design happening here, right? You've got your same buttons, the same familiar layout. Your face buttons. Guess what? They're bigger, right? And it's like, oh, so it's a little less clickety and just feels a lot more comfortable. And I think, but that's probably the big buzzword overall. Everything is more comfortable and more refined. And I've seen, we've all seen how mad people are over the cost of this system.
Hmm.
But when you get it in front of you, you can see where that money went. You're going, right, okay, this makes sense. Like the overhaul on the Joy-Con, very clearly to me, it's like, yep, and doing the magnetic thing. There's a lot of people that don't know how much trouble magnets cause screens, right? Like they don't know. They don't know you could take a magnet and put it on a CRT and fuck that TV right up. They don't know, and so it's like, oh, to have magnets that close to that, you had to really think about this a little bit before you did it. Okay, that makes sense to me. Um, the kickstand that I'm sure you've all heard, it's like, oh, it looks like it's flimsy. No, it's fucking metal, and that shit does not bend. It's great. Like they took the cue from the Switch OLED, and they were like, how much of this can we cut away and have it still be a functional kickstand? Turns out a lot, right? So if you compare this versus the launch, oh excuse me, the launch Switch, no, it's like sending a 10-year-old to beat up a 5-year-old. You already know how that's going to go. Like, don't do it. But if you compare it against the Switch OLED, it's an 8-year-old versus a 10-year-old. Look, an 8-year-old can throw. He can throw some hands. Right? Like, he might catch him off guard. He knows getting punched in the nuts fucking hurts, and he's going to try and do it. It's kind of one of those things.
Okay.
He's like, all right. It's just like, the differences aren't as clear on the hardware front. Now, it's once you start getting into it and you get into the internals, that's where a lot of shit changes. This system is fast. Like, everyone kind of knows how bad it is to get into the Nintendo eShop. And you got to wait for that nonsense to load, and it kind of chugs along. Nope, doesn't happen on the Switch 2. It's lightning quick, lightning quick. I'm
I'll
like,
put it to you this way:
wow.
the only thing worse than the Nintendo Switch eShop
Yeah,
is the PlayStation 3 shop.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, terrible,
And that
champion for that competition.
that is the kind of stuff that's been fixed. It's just you're like, oh, I wish the eShop didn't suck so much. Congratulations, it doesn't suck so much. You're like, you know what? I like my Switch. I'm comfortable. I don't want to learn how to do a whole bunch of brand new stuff on the system. Congratulations, you're not doing that. You're gonna look at the UI and go, yep, I know exactly what the hell I'm doing. Right? Like it's everything is just kind of laid out the same way. Just there's a lot more polish across the board. I have not seen any bugs. I have not seen any weird system crashes or anything like that. It's just an overall smoother experience. But to get into it, just like a little fine tuning, as far as those Joy-Con go, I am having a different experience with some Switch games as a result. So I loaded up Switch Sports, and the gyroscope and the accelerometer in here is so much better and so much more improved that I'm having to change how I played those games
Hmm.
because they're so accurate, especially the golf. Like, no, I'm having to do an actual full golf swing to get this thing to fire off because it is so exact, it's so precise. And I'm like, oh wow, that's a good thing. Like, no, you love to see it. Backwards
So
compatibility is working, you know?
I was about to say, so it seems to me more like I think a better analogy would be from the Nintendo Switch, or let's say, the Switch OLED. You know, Nintendo has iterated on the hardware and beefed up the internals to a degree where it's more comparable. It's a more comparable analog would be Sony going from the PS4 to the PS5.
No, I would say it's Sony going from the PS3 to the PS4, right? Like once we got in there and we started throwing a lot more fucking power behind that shit. You know what I mean? Ace,
But I also mentioned the
Did you
I
play
also mentioned
Dragon's Crown and Dragon's Crown Pro?
yeah.
That that severe difference. Like Dragon's Crown was great on the Vita, it's great on the PS3, but you play Pro and you know you're playing it the way that was supposed to be played in the first place.
Right. I also mentioned, iterating on the hardware because, there's the backwards compatibility from the Switch 2 to the Switch 1, same as,
Mhm.
from the, you know, PS, PS4 hardware and PS4 games can still play and still work on the PS5. You've just got access to the beefier internals comparatively.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That's really how it is. Just how some things are a lot more smoothed out. You know, even games
And
that haven't gotten a patch or an update, you can see some huge visual differences.
and
Um,
just how everything loads snappier too.
oh, it's super snappy. It's super fast. The I completely forgot, but the thing that actually really got my attention was the setup for the first time in the system transfer stuff.
Mhm.
It was very smooth and very informative, and they told you exactly how to handle each step along the way. Even though they go, hey, by the way, you have to have these micro SD express cards, right, in order to do stuff. It even let me transfer um, all my pictures and all my clips and all that other stuff, and it specifically told me to put the regular micro SD card inside of the Switch 2 to do that transfer. It dumped it into its own internal memory, right? And then it said, now put in the express card, and then we'll just copy them right back over there and then wipe them from your system memory. And all of this, like, it's the whole setup to transferring all my games, everything, the Nintendo account, the whole works. It was like
You want
20 minutes.
you want to know what that is?
Mm.
That right there is Nintendo addressing multiple pain points that had come up over the course of the lifespan of the Nintendo Switch, and were actually, repeatedly called in to customer service. Because damn near everything that you've mentioned that's been, streamlined and smoothed out, especially as far as the setup process, I have had to take calls helping people troubleshoot that.
Specifically on that stuff. It was super idiot proof. it like that. I don't know how else to describe. It was very much so idiot proof. It was just read this and then do what it says. And this wasn't like if you're trying to transfer stuff to a new phone or whatever, and you might be hearing about stuff you don't even know or understand. No, this was just, it was so gentle. And I did it all locally. I didn't do the move stuff to the cloud. No, I was just like, I got the switches right here. Let's do this. And it
And
was
again,
super, super clean.
just the fact that it even mentioned, you can use the micro SD for this part of the transfer, but then you have to remove it and put in the express card.
Mm-hmm.
That's stuff that folks, back on the Switch and with the OLED, that's stuff that folks would have actually, would have had. That's information they would have had access to if they looked up the, FAQs on the Nintendo website. It's not something that was just, that's expressly articulated right there on the system during the process.
Right. Like, yeah, this is all, I didn't have to go and look at outside information, anything, because it was just so upfront and crystal clear about what to do. And, other than that, I mean, I'm just thinking about that launch day and getting the system and getting it going. It was just such a pain-free process. There's only a couple of things I don't like, and I think they're personal nitpicks and not indictments of the hardware. I hate the size of their fucking power brick because I think it's like a 60-watt brick, and you're like, whoa, that's actually kind of heavy duty, right? As far as just having the USB-C brick, and it just doesn't fit into my outlets well, right? Personal thing. I'm sure there's a ton of other people that don't have problems with that. And if you don't like it, just go get a fucking brick, OBC. Like, stop being weird, right? But it was just a thing. I was like, I hate the size of this brick. The system does get warm. It gets warm. Like, what I'm playing more than anything else is I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom Enhanced, right? And even in the dock, even with this dock that has a fan built in, right? It has its own fan to help address this stuff because it can run in 4K and all that other stuff. The system will get concerningly warm. I was just like, I mean, yeah, you could technically hold this in your hands and keep playing, but you would think that beyond that point there would start to be damage or throttling, things like that. So I was just like, ooh, that's something to keep my eye on. It's not a thing to be concerned about immediately, but it's like, that is pretty toasty for such a single serve system. I'm looking at it, and that's another thing that I understand that factors into the price is everyone knows that the original Switch dock was just a little bare bones, right, on just everything.
Yeah.
And then eventually they put out the dock that has an Ethernet port and all that other good stuff. Well, that's the thing with this. It's got two USB on the outside. It's got your power connector on the inside. It's got Ethernet built in. It has its own fan to cool the system. I'm like, oh, okay, so you guys did a lot of engineering work here. And you carried over quite a few features that came from the OLED. And it's just when you look at this whole system, you look at it in the aggregate, it makes sense on what they did. Now, I'll give you my launch story real quick, and then I'll shut up. Because there's a ton of other stuff that's got to get covered from Summer Game Fest, right? But here's your stupid launch story. So I pre-ordered the system all the way back in April, right? And the crazy rat race, mad dash that everyone did trying to pre-order the damn thing, and everyone's come up sad. Well, I pre-ordered through Target, and I was like, hell yeah, I got that shit, nailed it. And they're like, we're totally not going to charge you until like a week before it comes out or whatever. And scalpers are selling shit left and fucking right, and they're selling for $1,000. You're like, people are being who they are again. Well, fast forward all the way up into the present, and it's a few days before launch, and I'm looking at this shit. I'm like, when is it going to say shipping? And that shit said, you're going to have it by June 11th. I said, June 11th? What the fuck you mean June 11th? I pre-ordered that shit in April. What are we doing here? right? And I go and take a peek on Reddit, and quite a few other people are experiencing the exact same thing. They're like, I pre-ordered this. I was like, right, first in the gate. They made sure that they took care of their stuff, but nope, you got all these people that are supposed to be getting the system a week late. So that morning, I get up on launch day. I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to walk into the store and see what happens. No, I totally walked into a fucking Target, just bought that shit right off the shelf. Wasn't even a fucking thing. Wasn't even an ordeal. So I tell this story to tell you that technically I own two Switch 2s. And the joke is this: I'm still waiting on that shit to come in the mail. I live in the middle of the country, just for context for people. I live in fucking Iowa, Field of Dreams ass Iowa. I have no clue why the fuck they started shipping it to me from West Virginia. I'm like, what? Why? I know the Switch is over here. Why? What is, don't you have a fulfillment center closer? No, no. And as of right now, that Switch is in Ohio. And I'm just like, uh-huh. And it's like, well, why didn't you cancel it? Because in the time that I literally got up, put on my dad pants, got my keys, and went and got in the car and drove to Target just to see. I had to do other shopping, right? So it wasn't like my aim. But in that time, in the 30 minutes I was gone, it went from being a cancelable order to, oh, now we're shipping it. You can't cancel anything. I'm like, are you serious? This is nuts. So I have to wait for it to get here and arrive. The bundle I didn't want, which just really makes the joke even funnier. Because, yeah, I had to get the Mario Kart bundle. I was like, I don't care about Mario Kart. I don't want it. But it was what I could order. So I was able to walk into the store on launch day for brand new hardware and get the one I actually wanted, which was just the base model, while I sit here looking at the $540 I don't have making its way slowly from West Virginia to Ohio. I'm like, this is the weirdest timeline. I don't know what's happening here. But when it gets here, I'll be able to just take it, and I can walk into a store and do a return, so it's not like I have to ship it back or anything. And it'll be a case of all's well that ends well, right? But I'm like, this is the weirdest nonsense I've gone through in quite some time over some hardware. No, it was a joke. It was just absolutely bonkers trying to figure this shit out. But I'm glad I have it. It's very good. It's very competent. I think that just like the original Switch, time will tell on some stuff, right? What kind of legs the hardware has, but what they put out, I believe, just my opinion, nobody needs to get all mad. I believe that Nintendo is doing a good job justifying the price difference between these two pieces of hardware, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. I cannot wait. And especially, I can't wait to see what third-party developers do with it. Just the mouse mode alone was it changed me. It converted me. I was like, that's great. I want to see more first-person shooters, right, coming around that way, because now it's that classic kind of hardware gambit where if you make a really specific third-party accessory, well, you're gonna have limited support for that, right? It's whoever decides to use that accessory. But when it is a core part of your hardware, every developer can make something with it. So the gate's wide open. It's kind of like why they struggle with VR, right? Where it's like, oh, buy this, huge headset and all that. How much is a PSVR 2? Isn't that damn near $400 by itself?
Mm-hmm.
Just for a headset and some controllers. It's like, no, you're not going to get the kind of audience you want, because that buy-in is extreme. But here, Nintendo went back to just that base level piece of technology that is definitely tried and true.
Right.
A goddamn mouse.
And like Shark Punch said in the chat, you can use a regular PC mouse on that bad boy too.
Yes, you can. You sure can. You just plug the damn thing in and away you go. It's like, wow, really? Yeah. There's so much to the Switch 2 that is a pure case of, wow, this just works. Like, here's a couple of quick bits before we get off me. But like I said, I immediately, the first two things I picked up, I picked up the micro SD express card, and I picked up the enhanced versions of both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because those are like my favorite games on that hardware. And this is huge coming from me, because I'm not a person that generally cares about Zelda. I know Zelda games are good games, but they're not the ones that do it for me, you know.
Right.
But those two did, and I made sure to put them through their paces on stream. I broke out the original versions of both. The Switch will run them as if they are the original versions, right? So if you have the cartridges for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and you run them, it's going to run it exactly the way it does on any other typical Switch. And then, I obviously busted out the enhanced versions. So right out the gate, best thing is it just recognizes those old saves. It doesn't care, right? So it's not like, oh, you're going to start again. No, continue on where you left off.
Okay.
The vibrancy, the colors, even when you're just hooked up to a TV, not even looking at it on the panel, which is also very, very nice. But everyone that came into stream just to look, they were like, God, everything is so colorful. Everything's so bright. It's so rich. When we did the comparisons, you can see these guys did work on these games, right? They just gave it that little push to make those two games look the very best that they could be, and how they always wanted it to look. You can clearly tell this is how you wanted to present these things right out the gate. Even when I played other things, like I can't think of a single thing that I played on here that just wasn't beautifully vibrant, crisp, and popping. And Ace, you've known me for a very long time now. You know that graphics are not the very first thing that comes to my mind when I'm looking at a game and assessing it. But it's very hard to ignore with these enhanced versions of the games. You're like, no, I put about 300 hours in that game and I know what it looks like, and this is an entirely different beast. It's just crazy cool looking. Um, Download speeds on Switch are well known for being horrendous. Nope. Wi-Fi 6, they're quick. They're acceptably quick when you're just looking at that damn cheeseburger. You're like, oh wow, this is really snappy. This is really, really good. Oh, and of course, I made it a point to check out the Nintendo GameCube. And it was a hell of a trip down memory lane playing Soul Calibur 2. I was in my early 20s, and boy, I got in there and whooped ass with Maxie. It's like I never left Soul Calibur. I was like, nope, cracking
Muscle
people
memory.
upside their heads. Oh man, again, worth the cost of entry alone. I was like, oh, this is nice. I said, how are you doing, Link? He's like, I'm all right. Oh, it was
How you
good.
doing, Link?
Right. Next thing I know, he's blowing up Taki with the damn bombs. And I was like, wow, that was like 23 years ago. It's crazy. So, all in all, what I'm saying is that it's a great step up. I've already, seen the news and heard the reports that this is actually the fastest selling hardware in Nintendo's history. I think they did a great move launching their hardware right now, so they have the rest of the year to get their stock in order and all that. And when the holiday rush comes around, guess who's not going to be scalping and taking all these systems up? The diehards, right? The guys that really wanted it, they just got it, right? So there's going to be Switch 2s for everyone else. And as long as they don't do anything stupid, I can't see how this isn't going to be a massive success. Nintendo definitely, I think, for damn near the first time. I mean, a couple other times, they obviously follow a trend, but the Switch 2 is Nintendo going, it ain't broke, so I'm not fixing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but really quickly before we move on to try and finish this up, that has basically been Nintendo's MO from what I've seen over the last few console generations. They start a new console generation by basically pulling their hardware into the current gen.
Yeah.
Like they start a new generation, so they basically started you know, the next console generation by, you know, putting out a piece of hardware that operates on relatively the same level as, say, the PS4 and the PS5. Well, the PS5, namely. Whereas, the previous generation, coming from the Wii U to the Switch, it was basically like, pulling their hardware forward to a level that operates more on closer to like, basically closer to like the, closer to the PS4 or the PS3.
Mhm.
I think it's
It's
good
it's
that. Sorry, go
it's
ahead.
just no. I was gonna say it really is terrific, and it's really about having people manage their expectations. To people that immediately just right out the gate just go, oh, it's going to be just like the PS4. Well, I think Cyberpunk was a damn good way to make that point, to go, this is not the Switch one, because we all know what kind of a nightmare it was to run Cyberpunk on anything.
Yep.
And to go, yay, we have this really, really hyper optimized version of the game to run on this. I mean, that's really telling. You're right there up front going, we've got huge potential here. Anything that launches on hardware, I've learned over the course of my life, the first games that you see for a system are the worst a game is going to look and perform over the life of that hardware, as they just get more familiar with it. So I'm based on what you're opening up with, with Cyberpunk, you're like, holy shit, that's a huge swing. I imagine it's just going to get better, over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I I wish I had complaints, and normally I always have a complaint about a piece of hardware, or a major one. But this time, at this point in time, I have nothing. It's a great piece of hardware. It's just it looks good in the hand. I feel like when I'm looking at it, if it's that it's just like Ace and I have talked about back in the day, the value proposition. I look at it and I'm like, I definitely feel like I'm holding $400 worth of hardware, and I feel like it was a justified spend to do that, to continue playing the things that I already like, and to see what's coming down the line in the future. I don't know if it's justifiable for everyone, but if you know what you've got and you know what you liked, and someone says, and it's just going to be better, and being able to have that kind of performance and that reliability, if that's the thing that matters to you, jump in. But if you're like, you know what, I can wait, totally do. Totally fucking wait. Like, no, you absolutely should wait. If it's just not a priority like that for you, then just sit back and wait and see how things are going to shake out. I think it's that easy of a formula. And I guess just my last note: what the fuck are they doing, charging $80 for Zelda? Like, what are you doing? Like, no, just bring that down, Nintendo.
Ask
You
Match the
important
market.
questions.
That's some
All right.
crack addict thinking. Don't need it.
So, with that being said, let's try and cut through some of the rest of this so that way we can get to the hypothetical if we still got time for that. Oliver, if you still got time to
I
stick around
totally
as well.
do. Let's do it.
Perfect. So, pulling up the list one more time for the remainder of the games that showed up at Summer Games Fest, we had a good number of surprising sequels like Mortal Shell 2. Of course, Death Stranding 2, had a pretty sizable reveal. We had the new Sonic Racing. Let's see, Code Vein 2, which came out of left field for me. So, if basically, here is how I can summarize Code Vein. God Eater was what got me into Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Code Vein is the game that can definitely get you into Souls-likes. If you want something that's a little bit faster paced, a little bit more arcadey, but you still have that sort of meaty kind of control over your character, then yeah, you're definitely going to want to keep an eye out for Code Vein 2. Speaking of sequels, there was also more shown off for Daemon X Machina, Titanic Scion, and then we have some rather nice indie games that had made a splash at the show, like Mouse PI for Hire,
It looks cool.
and also get Getting a little bit into the beat 'em ups, we had more characters announced for Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which were Rocket Raccoon and She-Hulk. Let's see, we got more information on Onimusha Way of the Sword, and another indie game to keep an eye out for, Felt That Boxing.
Oh my
it's
god.
so good looking.
Muppet
That
Punch-Out.
was so hilariously cute.
It needs to be VR, 100%. 100%.
Fingers crossed that we actually do get some VR for that too, because yeah, it looks astounding.
Gonzo about to beat somebody's ass.
Right? No,
I was like, it's going down.
Look, Elmo was having issues with Rocco for the longest time.
That's true.
Now he's going to resolve them issues. But yeah, I mean, even with everything that we have covered thus far with, just some of the games that I had mentioned, even on top of that, Lies of P Iceborne got shadow dropped the same day as Summer Game Fest. So
Damn.
If you're looking for that, get on it.
Strong recommend from me. Played through it, finished it. It's great.
Let's see, and then of course we've got the next the next joint from Yacht Club Games with Mina the Hollower. Oh, that one looks promising. Speaking of VR, there was also a trailer for Deadpool VR. Another great sequel / expansion, Dying Light: The Beast.
Hell yeah.
I mean, to say that there wasn't, to say that there was a shortage, to say that there wasn't a shortage of games being showcased, this year, it really felt like even Summer Game Fest, trimmed back a little bit of the talking, a little bit of the Hollywood pomp and circumstance, and just stuck to, showing off games.
I noticed that too, which is good.
I hadn't even considered that until you just said it. You're absolutely right. They sure did. They kind of they cut a lot of nonsense and just got right to the point.
Yeah, they trimmed the fat a little bit. There was still some there because Jeff Keighley had to bring his BFF on.
Mm-hmm.
However, compared to previous years, this year's SGF felt more like an Xbox game showcase. They just got right down to it, and no matter what your opinion may be on various games or developers, the fact of the matter is that every single developer and every single game that was showcased here is a sign of those developers firing on all cylinders. It's now just a matter of how everything plays on the market once the rubber hits the road. That being said, as far as anything rumor mill based goes, I don't have anything listed for that because, again, I'm just the substitute. But that's it for the news. It was a barn burner of a week, and I am definitely looking forward to helping bring the news and bring the current events to y'all during the next session. But that's going to be it.
All right. Yeah, there was a lot of content to cover over the show. There were, like I said, at least 2 to 3 shows over the weekend, and there's just so much to cover, and with only 2 hours, and we don't want to go too much over. But yeah, well, just know that sometimes we do shows on Saturdays if need be, but we'll keep you guys posted if we ever do decide to have some time for that. So it's all about having time. All right. Speaking of it's time, let's do a quick rhetorical here with a question for you guys today. And if it's your first time here, the rhetorical is just a what if in alternate video game history, or if we could, should we do it? Or just any fun question that I'd like to ask chat and everybody else. So your rhetorical question for tonight is, let me pull this up. Let's see here. All right, I'll give you guys the loading. There we go. All right. right,
Also,
your question. Yeah, go ahead.
the upper right, Oliver's face is kind of covered.
Oh no.
I can switch that over. No worries. There you go. All right. Question for tonight on the rhetorical is: what's the most underrated game you've ever played, and why does no one talk about it? So I'd like to hear real quick from the panel, and give us like a couple words at why it's the most underrated game and why does no one talk about it. Chat, feel free to chime in.
Well,
Oh, it's a great question.
I
Go
can
ahead,
think
yeah.
of a couple that I can think of a couple that I would call, underrated, largely because, you know, in its genre, there are so many more games that are, that take up more of the oxygen in the room when it's discussed. Rogue Galaxy is
Oh, God,
definitely
a good one. Yeah.
one of the more underrated RPGs that I have played, and I absolutely love the hell out of it. Why does no one talk about it? Because when you just take a look at Rogue Galaxy just as a game, you see the space theme, you see the fantasy theme, and you might look and say, Star Ocean's already got that covered. But it's really one of those where you definitely have to, open up the wrapper and actually sit down, give the game a shot, even if it's just like 20-30 minutes to check out how the combat plays. To that's where you'll start to see just how unique Rogue Galaxy is. But if we want a game that is like legitimately underrated, that very few people even talked about during the generation it released, I gotta give it to Wild 9.
Is that the one with the glove? Right?
Yeah, Wild 9, a criminally underrated side scroller. It's got exceptionally well written humor. The the action in it and the mechanics using the rig. And then there's also the simple fact that it actually rewards you for getting creative with how you deal with enemies using the environment and using whatever obstacles are in your way as means of taking folks out.
Mm-hmm. Creative ways to kill.
Yep.
Kind of like Bulletstorm before Bulletstorm.
Basically, if Bulletstorm was a side scroller.
There you go.
I mean, I'll just give you a real quick example. One of your ally characters that you run into, his name is Nitro the Living Bomb. This man is allergic to everything. And when he has an allergic reaction, he explodes.
That's like
Damn.
such creative design,
Homie's struggling.
Now, you use your little electric arc to maneuver Nitro around the stage as you are, basically rescuing him from his imprisonment. And he is on a timer. When you hear him start sniffling, set him down, and you will notice that the enemies actually react to there being an explosive in their presence. They panic. They start running around. Then you hear, ha, 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 kaboom! And you can actually use Nitro to, use his sneezes to demolish obstacles as you were making your way to the end of the stage. And he is definitely counted as one of the ways to kill your opponents, where if you manage to utilize every single torture method in the stage, you will get enough points to actually earn yourself extra lives and continues.
Have you ever streamed Wild 9?
It was a while back. I had tried streaming it, but back then I think I might have still been having issues with a performance bottleneck. AKA I needed to upgrade my processor so that way I could run the so that way I could run DuckStation and stream.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
But
I
hey,
think
Hardware struggle was
that'd be
real,
cool
man.
to get that back again. Show us.
hey, it's definitely something I can put back in the rotation.
There you go. There you go. What about you, Oliver?
There are like I had to actually look at my shelf because it's a great question, but I just needed to think really hard, and I'm gonna have to just this is weird because it's not necessarily one game, but it's a small block of them. Any Atlas Shin Megami game that's not Persona
Hmm.
are they're just criminally overlooked. That's Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. That's
Mhm.
Raito Kuzunoa, which is actually about to get a remaster. Um, fuck. I mean, we could even say Persona 1 and 2, right? Which are incredible, incredible RPGs for their time. They're representative of that time. Um, it's just that any of these other games, even though they fall under the SMT umbrella, they bring unique stuff to the table, like super unique stuff. I mean, come on, the whole cannibalism angle of Digital Devil Saga, the fact that they actually had to split it into two games because it was just that incredible. Raito Kuzunoa completely dovetails off from typical, uh, turn-based RPG fare, and it's more like Pokemon in the Taisho era. And you're like, oh, okay. And what else are you? Oh, I'm a detective. I'm like, you know what? I didn't expect this angle at all. I just didn't see it coming. And it's obviously the original releases of those games were very rare and very expensive for a long time. I haven't checked recently, but you used to be able to command a couple $100s out of each of those games.
Yeah, and I think they were also bundled like differently. They had like a cardboard box with like a art book, so they were really like special when they were released.
Yep.
I remember. So
And
why do you think nobody talks about them?
I think that mostly it's been a case of Atlas historically would release their games and then that would be it, right? And they
Who
would
talks
just
about
kind of they just float into the background and that was it. But then, Persona 4 hit and that went over like gangbusters for them finally. Like, Persona 3 happened and people were like, "Hey, what's this?" And then Persona 4 really happened and now we can't get the fuck away from Persona 4. Like
Yeah.
I made a Dr. Manhattan meme template out of that, right? I was like, "Oh, it's 2008, Persona 4 is released. Oh, the year's 2012, Persona 4 is released. The year's 2023, Persona 4 is released. And now thanks to Summer Game Fest, Persona 4 is about to get released again." I'm like, "Damn, I don't have enough panels for this."
It's Atlas's Skyrim, right? They
It
keep
is
kind of
their
milking.
damn Skyrim.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. We can't get away from that shit. And so, yes, I'm happy for you that these games got attention and resonated with people, but don't forget about these other ones that are just so different, right? Like they're just so massively different compared to these other games that they deserve a certain amount of attention. And even though they typically don't do HD releases on this stuff, the tide's obviously starting to turn
Mhm.
with SMT5 getting an expanded version and then more platforms. Um, Before SMT5 even dropped, they actually did that remaster on SMT3. So, and I'm like, oh, that makes complete sense because you actually need that context because it directly follows the events of SMT3. I'm like, yeah, smart. You should do that just so everybody can get caught up to speed and so on and so forth. But I could easily see that those games, especially because they got away from me, I didn't get to finish them. Particularly Raito, I've been salty about that for like 20 years. Like I had it way back then, and I didn't get an opportunity to finish it. And now I'm like, hot damn! I hope that other people go, wait a minute, this is really cool. What's going on here? And we can kind of roll with that. If I had a one honorable mention as far as just deeply overlooked by everyone, including the company that makes it, Vagrant Story.
Hmm.
Everyone that plays Vagrant Story knows that Vagrant Story is gangbusters, but the fact that Square has done nothing with it, I think it might be their highest rated game of all time, or it's something like that. I can't remember. Like, critics were like, this is brilliant. Everyone that plays it's like, this is brilliant, right? Comes out swinging, incredible stuff. And just, it kind of just is shoved into the back of the room when we're like, oh yeah, Vagrant Story. I love that game. And then crickets happen. I just don't understand it. As far as I can say is that it's a game that everyone who loves gaming, they should play it. If you're like, I don't like RPGs, this is the game for you, right? Because it's so mechanically different. The only way you're gonna play a game with those systems is Vagrant Story and what, Parasite Eve.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it. And the fact that it works is just, it's great stuff. Great
Yeah.
stuff. I love it.
I honestly believe Vagrant Story is one of the most underrated games because, like, when you think of Square, Squaresoft, Square Enix, you think of Final Fantasy immediately, and
Mm-hmm.
then a lot of the stuff gets brushed under the rug because of they take over because of the notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, you're right, and hopefully that comes back sometime in the near future. But my most underrated game I've ever played currently, Ace, you know what this is because I recommended this game to you not that long ago. Is Mr.
Exoprimal.
Exoprimal. I was actually shocked of how much fun I had when I loaded that game and played it. That's why I believe it's underrated that I've ever played. And
I'll
shortly
put it
put
to you
it,
this way. Oliver,
Yes.
if you like piloting a mech suit slaughtering hordes of dinosaurs, that's Exoprimal.
and it's not
I've
Dino
looked
Crisis 3.
I've looked at it. I'm not sure I see the appeal, but I didn't see the appeal in fucking Earth Defense Force either. And now now I'm a convert,
Actually,
man. I got the haircut and everything.
actually, uh,
It's
that's how the gameplay loop actually kind of feels with Exoprimal.
it's so
It's
weird
it's
because like
EDF with mech suits, and you're facing off against again hordes of dinosaurs that I swear spawn like the freaking bugs in EDF.
it's definitely faster paced than EDF, right? But like it's one of those games you look at, you're like, this looks so lame, but you play, you're like, this is stupid fun. It's just dumb.
You're like, hold up, this is baller. How did this
Yeah,
happen?
exactly. And I was telling Ace this. I was like, for $60, hell no, I would not buy this game. $20, I'll give it a shot. Then I was like, this is the best $20 I ever spent. This is really good. That's
It
kind of
always
what I'm
happens
getting.
like that. It
Yeah,
happens like that for some reason. You're like, wait a minute, this is incredible.
yeah.
Like, why did I sleep on it in the first place?
Yeah, because at the time we look at it and we go, that looks like Overwatch, that looks like this. I don't have time for that. I got other games to play, right? But no, it's one of those games, guys. If there's a demo, try the demo, and I guarantee you'll have fun just do the demo. No one talks about it because it does look like a generic like co-op shooter that was popular during that time of release, right? And it's online, it's live service, so of course it's not going to be for everybody, right? So it got brushed under the rug. But there is love in this game. Like you can tell this game had potential. Ace talked about it earlier on today about Exoprimal and having all the other worlds of Capcom jump into that. There's potential here, but I think it's just one of those things. It's just a little bit too late for when it was planned for. The positive thing is that they are still supporting it, and when they do stop supporting it, you can still play it because they are giving you everything available that's in rotation, which I heard. So super cool on that one. All right. All right. I promise you we're going to end here, and I'm going to end with this. All right. I have a outro for you guys, and I want you guys to do you guys know who this person is here on the screen? Does anybody know who that is?
Well, clearly,
Chat,
it's
do you
Animal
know
Crossing.
who that is on the
Say
screen?
what in the Animal Crossing?
Okay, well, yeah, it's Animal Crossing. All right. But yeah, it is Chief from Animal Crossing. I don't know if you guys are Animal Crossing fans. Probably played the old one, right? And haven't really played the new one. But that is Chief, and there's a reason why Chief is on the screen today. Chief is the resident wolf of Animal Crossing or your village, right? And Chief has a message for all the viewers and for us here at the panel. Let me double check here. Okay.
Sounds
So
threatening.
yeah, I will find all of you. So here's the real quick. Chief is a deep orange wolf with a white pointed snout and perked up ears. His paws and feet, muzzle all are creamy white, and his ears slightly tipped dark brown at the top and are light pink on the inside. His eyes gleam when open, and he has ginger brown hair in between him his two ears that is slanted in a modular way. His appearance strongly resembles as a fox. Now, Chief, below is described, is a cranky villager. Chief will have the tendency to be belittling towards those around him. He is no exception to the typical cranky villager type, finding peppy villagers too happy and conflicting against snooty villagers. When talking to other cranky villagers, he will get involved in deep conversations, usually about trivial matters like the weather or the villagers and the way they act. For some reason, he enjoys gardening and will soon be involved in fishing and bug catching. He may also ask the player to look for an item clothing for him to wear, giving the excuse that he cannot be caught shopping for clothes because it's lame. In Wild World, he may challenge the player to a fishing competition. In New Leaf, when the player has a conversation with a villager, the jock personality about what they were like as a baby, Chief will reenact what he was like as a baby. Now, what the hell am I talking about here? Got Chief from Animal Crossing, and we're about to end the show. So what is this all about? Well, I wanted to kind of end today's stream with a little bit more insight and something for you guys to take away. As you know, I'm a big fan of you guys taking some stuff away from the show, learning and applying it to the real world so y'all can be better people. So the thing that resonated with me is that today's quote of the week is, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better," from Chief in Animal Crossing. So the lesson for that is, life is, you really can't control life as much as you think you can. So, don't wish it was easier, but what you can control, folks, is how you can be better at it. So one of my mentors over COVID that taught me a bunch of new things to enrich my life was, there's a lot of terrible things happening in our world right now. And I know a lot of people are looking to change things. And I'm one of those people. But there's only so much we can do. We only have so much power. So tonight, guys, as gamers, even in this video game, Animal Crossing, it's giving us a lesson from Chief saying, focus on what you can control rather than what you can't control. All right. And that could be just your attitude, could be small things like that, right? Even, it could be something small or something big. So do what you can, be the best version of yourself. And of course, as always, thank you for coming to the show. Oliver, appreciate you, man. As always, I think you may have you come back more often. Is that all right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you need me.
Yeah, I gotcha. I've been so busy these past few weeks, and I've been kind of all over the place. But I wanted to kind of add this to the show because I feel like I wanted to add a little bit of hope and some lessons for those out there. I love you guys as always. But yeah, let's wrap it up for class session 35 here at the Gaming Academy. Huge thanks to our guest OCB for highlighting the knowledge and spice of the Switch 2, because he's got something we don't got, and that's Switch 2. Showing up for us. Yep, showing up for love. Not only that, he has two of them. What a flex.
Two of the damn things.
We took a deep dive into the Summer Game Fest for 2025, and from the bold to the bizarre, whether it's a Capcom horror renaissance, Kojima's Beach Brain, or if you know it, Wu-Tang
game.
Yep. Entering the co-op genre. That's right. There's no denying that gaming's future is loud, cinematic, and of course, chaotic in the best way. As always, we leave you this thought. The games of tomorrow are built on the dreams of today. So keep playing, keep questioning, and stay curious. We'll watch you next class. And until then, stay safe, stay grinding, and most of all, stay gaming. And with that said, Ace, what is it?
Class dismissed.
All right, guys. GG's. Have a good night.